Awesome. Welcome to another episode of Empower Her Wealth Summit, where we are helping you to understand how to create your own economic independence, how to retire when you desire, and understanding all the different money mindset, taxes, business, all the things that go wrap around that to empower you to take action to have the best life ever. Today we have our guest, Barbara Weltman, and she is going to knock your socks off. And I say that because I kind of geek out on the tax and legal side. I'm not licensed. I'm not, I used to be, but I no longer can give you the best advice. And so I'm bringing on the expert to give this to you. And we're going to have an amazing conversation. Barbara, why don't you jump on in and say hello to everyone?
I'm so glad to be here, and I love to share this information. I love to empower women.
So good, so good. So my audience is primarily women. They're in their 40s. They didn't grow up understanding money, much less taxes, business, and they're doing their best to put their best foot forward. But what I also hear a lot of is it's so confusing, and I'm hoping, and I know by some of the things that we talked about, we're going to simplify a few things for them. So why don't you just go ahead and let us know what empowered you to do this in the first place? Why do you geek out on taxes?
Well, it's interesting. I grew up in a household where we had family dinners, and my dad was a small business owner. And so the talk at the table every night was about his business and what went on all during the day. And so I heard a lot about that. And that was sort of in the back of my mind. And then I became a lawyer, and I worked with small business owners, and I helped them to set up their businesses, to do their succession planning, and deal with certain problems that arose. And then after a while, when I didn't have to support my children anymore and they became independent, I decided, I keep getting the same questions from business owners repeatedly, and I had all this information, and I just wanted to share it with small business owners nationwide. And so I closed my practice and started my business. And what I do through my business is provide free information to small business owners in a variety of ways, primarily through my daily idea, my idea of the day, which goes out by email for those who subscribe, and then blogs that I post and accumulate in a monthly e-newsletter. And then I also write books and do talks and just like this, and just try to reach out to the small business community.
So good. So you can salt and pepper all over everyone, right? Lots of ways to get great data. And I think that's what my audience is looking for is, how does it work for them, right? And so if you can speak to a little bit to what exactly is it that you would do if someone got on the line with you, how could you best serve them?
Yeah, well, it obviously, the thing to recognize is that everybody's situation is different, and it is no, one size fits all kind of advice, and you have to tailor the information to the audience, to whoever you're talking to. So, it depends on where they are in life. Or do they have a business? Are they thinking of starting a business? Are they trying to climb the corporate ladder? Where are they? And that will sort of direct what they have to do. But I think today there are so many challenges that we all face. I mean, inflation. I would go to the supermarket, and there's so many demands. Everything that I buy now costs more. Everything from the services I pay for to the products I buy, everything costs more. And so it's more challenging than ever to accumulate wealth, to be able to have money to invest in a business, to be able to further your education, whatever it is. I recognize that it's all very challenging. The good news that I see, and that I try to encourage people to understand, is that in many ways, the tax law is a help, not a hindrance. Yeah, they taxes your income, but there may be deductions and credits for some of the activities that you want to pursue to help you accumulate your wealth.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm so glad you touched on that, because I always sound like an attorney myself, because I go, it depends. It depends. Right. And it truly does, depending on where you're at in the road, is what you need help in. And so let's just dive in. I think in one of my conversations, I was talking about, the W-2 person paying too much in taxes, and like they needed, like really need now more than ever to be an entrepreneur, either on top of that or instead of, depending on where you're at. There's that depends word again. And then some of my audience, they're already entrepreneurs, and they're like, how do I pay next to zero in taxes? Like they're looking for that. They're on as Robert Kiyosaki does, the employment, self-employed business investing side. They're all on the left side of the quadrant, paddling like mad dogs, trying to make things happen. What would you say to that person who's on the left side of the quadrant there, that's paddling like a mad dog, trying to make ends meet, make another buck, pay their taxes, and maybe even scale their business?
Sure. Well, the good news is that today we live in an era where we have a gig economy, that there are numerous online platforms that you can take advantage of to bring in extra income. If it's just a matter of that, if it's something that you just want to bring in extra money because you need it, or because you want to kind of test the waters and see if you want to go in that business direction. Maybe you're an employee now, but if you have a sideline business, perhaps you're selling something through Etsy or whatever, and you want to see if that is perhaps could become a full-time business for you. So sideline gig, that's sort of one way to go. If you're talking about scaling your business, everybody wants to grow their business. I mean, that's kind of the name of the game. If you're stuck, turn to experts. I mean, there are business coaches who can help you personally get over what's keeping you personally from moving ahead, or work with other professionals, whether it's your accountant, your attorney, whatever, to help you understand what roadblocks you face now and how you can expand and go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So if it's a money issue, let's just say that they get everything. So whatever they get, they spend, whether they're W-2 entrepreneurs. Where would you say that person needs to go right now, according to our economy?
Well, I would say that you shouldn't be in that position, and you shouldn't spend everything that comes in the door, because it's kind of short-sighted. Yes, I know you're struggling, but people do struggle, but there are ways to cut back and cut corners and reduce your spending to the extent necessary for certain other things. For example, I think one of the problems I see so many self-employed individuals face is that the money that comes in the door for their business, they spend it, and then they don't have the money available when they have to pay their taxes. They have to pay estimated taxes and self-employment tax, which is their Social Security and Medicare taxes, and they don't have the money set aside to do that. So I think it's really just a question of budgeting and discipline and doing that. The other aspect of not spending everything is putting money into a retirement plan, whether it's through your job or you set one up through your business, and squirreling money away on a regular basis. Don't think you just set it aside. It's not there for you to spend. Just put it into the retirement plan to the extent that you're allowed. There are limitations depending on the plan, and you have to find out all the rules and what you can and cannot do. But if you do this on a regular basis and you invest wisely, you're building your future, and it's going to be there. And the sooner you start, the less dramatic your savings have to be to have a comfortable retirement.
Yeah, so that, like we've all experienced, I don't know if we all, but like I would say the majority of us have experienced a W-2 job where they automatically took the money out for your taxes and
Right.
help whatever. So you never saw that money. So now that you've jumped over to being an entrepreneur, you kind of need to do the same thing. So how do you, how would someone, I don't know if all my entrepreneurs are doing this or not. So I'm going to check in and give them a little tip here, hopefully from you, Barbara. If they are an entrepreneur or they have a side hustle, like how should they be addressing their taxes, like making sure that their quarterlies are met? And
Right. Well, many entrepreneurs set up a separate bank account to put a certain amount of money aside. But I think it starts with a mental adjustment. If $1,000 comes in the door, you can't think that you have $1,000 to spend, because part of that money has to go to expenses, and part of those expenses include taxes. And perhaps you want to include your retirement savings in that formula. So be sure to sort of adjust your thinking so that you don't blow everything that comes through the door, and you have the funds to pay your bills when they come due, and that includes your taxes. And so again, it may require you to set up a separate bank account and put X amount of everything that comes in the door into that separate account, or just have your regular budget and review your budget, know how you're spending, and have it fixed into your budget.
yeah, so good, so good. So, and what I'm hearing is back to the discipline thing, right? And I know things changed quite a bit in this recent couple of years. You're speaking already on the economy and how everything's more expensive, and what used to be a budget and easily done if someone is already doing this has changed because, well, our economy has changed. How much do you, factor that in on a regular basis? Do you say, okay, like every year do a percentage growth, or, is there some kind of formula for that you have?
I think you make a great point, which is that because of changes in the economy, it's hard to say that you should be growing at a certain rate or whatever, because you have to account for if you have any employees, that the wages are up, and all of the costs associated with employees, all the benefits and insurance and stuff, that's all increased. So that's one factor. Then you have the inflation and inflationary impact on other things that you have to purchase. So it's really hard to say, but it's just like you would do with your household budget. You really need to look at every item and really decide what you need and what you don't need. And I went through a little tough period and had to cut back unbelievably in certain things personally. And so I know what the exercise is like. And yeah, you can't do it. You're going to have to get rid of your streaming services and get rid of your subscriptions, and if that's what it takes. And it's just, again, what do you want the most? If you want to grow, if you want to have a secure future, you have to put in the time and effort now.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. And so in talking about taxes, let's just jump into that. What would be some of the things, maybe some top 3 to 5 things that people should strive for in the tax law that they may not know about?
Okay, well, one is that almost all people in business use their personal vehicles for business driving. And if you want to write off that cost, you've got to have good records. You can't just guesstimate how much you drove for business versus your total driving. And you are required to maintain records to do this. So whether you use an app or you write it down on paper, what your odometer reading is for every business trip, whether you're going to see a customer or you're going to the bank or whatever that might be, you want to have good records. If you don't, you're going to lose out on a legitimate write-off, which can be significant depending on the business that you're in. Another write-off that sometimes gets a bad rap is the home office deduction. And today, so many of us are working from home. And you can take a deduction for what really, if you think about it, is a personal expense that you're paying for anyway, but you get this business write-off as long as you meet certain conditions. And the space that you use for business has to be used regularly and exclusively. So you can't write off any part of your kitchen because that's going to be used for your family and for eating and whatever. If you have, if you have let's say a family room, as long as you use a portion of it for business, you can, that square footage can be your home office deduction. You don't need any separate room or even any kind of curtain or anything like that, as long as that area is used regularly and exclusively for business. So I think that's, people in the past were fearful that if you took a home office deduction, the IRS was going to audit you. And for many people, they thought this was a red flag. But considering that, I don't know, the last number, I thought it's more than 60% of us work from home. I mean, it's a huge number. They're not going to audit everybody. So just follow the rules and you'll get your write-off. So that's a good one. Another, as we were talking about with retirement savings, you're going to get a break for it, and you may even get a double break, because not only do you get a deduction for putting money into certain types of retirement savings plans, or you get an exclusion. In other words, if you put part of your salary into a 401k, it's just not going to be taxed now. You may also get a tax credit, and a tax credit is worth a lot, because a tax deduction, let me just explain something, because I think people may not fully understand this, but a deduction is worth only as much as the tax bracket that you're in, the top tax. So let's say you're in the 22% tax bracket. If you have $1,000, that's a deduction. It's saving you $220 in taxes. If you have $1,000 in credit, it's a dollar for dollar offset to your tax bill. So $1,000 credit saves you $1,000 in taxes. So with retirement savings, you may even get to double dip. In other words, you're going to get your retirement deduction or exclusion of income, plus you may get a tax credit. So, don't overlook that. That's really a great break. I could go on and on because I write the books on this, and so. Yeah, I can sound real boring on this.
No, this is real. Well, I geek out on it, so it's really good for me to hear. So good. I mean, 3 to 5, I guess, is what we were looking for, just so people get an example. Some of the most the typical missed ones. Like they shoulda, coulda, woulda, because everyone does that to themselves. I shoulda, coulda, woulda, and if I'd only known better. And what I hear a lot of is my CPA is, has been in my family for years. I've always used them, and they're not strategizing with them. What questions should they be asking their CPA to strategize? What are some more diligent questions to help them understand?
Sure. Well, first of all, their CPA should be reaching out to them throughout the year, because tax rules change. They don't stay the same. There could be a new law, there could be a new ruling, there could be a new opportunity, and sometimes it's time limited, and they should be reaching out to you so that you don't miss out. That would be one thing. And if they're not doing that, maybe it's time to find a new tax advisor. I think when it comes to strategy, I think it depends on the industry that you're in. I mean, clearly, like, for example, if you're in retail and you're maintaining inventory, there are a lot of inventory strategies, and the CPA should be really talking to you about what to do to optimize that in your business, what to do. For example, what do you do with stuff that just doesn't sell? And there are options and ways to handle that. So that's another thing. If you're in construction, there are a lot of special rules, and you want to know what those may be. If you want to take advantage of green energy tax breaks, you want to know what they are. They're new, and there are things that you can do to optimize the write-offs for that. So it just depends on where you're at and what is suited to the type of business or industry that you're in.
Nice. Yeah. So if you are a W-2 person and you're going to, I don't want to name any names, but those traditional corner tax places, which could be fine because they have a simple W-2 and some of them they do it for free. What would you say to that person or anyone in the audience here that can help the W-2 person understand that there is other strategies so that they could pay less in taxes? And on top of that, what does getting a refund mean? Because a lot of people go, oh, I can't wait to file my taxes because I get a refund. What would you say to that person as well?
Okay, so let's start with the second question about a tax refund. So a tax refund means you're getting your own money back, which means that you have made an interest-free loan to the government.
Yeah.
So it's really wise to try to pay as close to what you think you're going to owe for the year. If you're a W-2 employee, the IRS has an online tool that you can use to figure what your withholding should be so that you're really close. A lot of people look at their tax refund as their forced savings, that this is the money they're going to use for vacation or a big home improvement or something like that. Well, I say to those people, put your own money away and don't, instead of writing a check to Uncle Sam, put your money in your own bank account for that purpose. So that's one thing. Of course, you don't want to underpay. And that's because if you underpay by too much, there are certain breaks and safe harbors where you can avoid penalties. But if you underpay too much, you're going to pay underpayment penalties, and which are really tied to the interest rates. And with interest rates as they are now, those penalties can really hurt. And so you don't want to do that. So I always say it's sort of like the Goldilocks. You don't want to, Goldilocks, the bed's too hard, too soft, you want it just right. And that's the same with the taxes, that you don't want to overpay or underpay. You want to try to be just right. What was the first question? You were talking about how do you learn and know what to do and how to strategize? Well, that's what I do, actually. I mean, I write books and give courses and talk about this, and that's kind of my whole reason for being in business, is that I try to get people to kind of think about taxes. Taxes should never be the motivating factor for any kind of action. In other words, you don't buy and sell stocks based on your tax results, but you need to figure taxes into just about everything you do. So I tell, for example, for small business owners, I tell them, well, you really need to understand the difference tax-wise, what it means for a decision whether you hire an employee or use an independent contractor, whether you buy equipment or lease it. So you really want to understand what the tax ramifications of your business decisions are. And the same goes for W-2 individuals who maybe you're looking for a job and you're evaluating job offers, and this job has certain a whole menu of tax-free benefits, and the other doesn't. And yeah, that's not going to be the deciding factor in which company you choose, but it's not something to be ignored either.
Yeah, absolutely. So so good. I'm taking down notes mentally for a few of the women in my audience, and I'm trying to ask questions according to what I hear them saying. And one of them, it's coming to mind now, and saying, I used to get a refund and I did a side hustle, and now I owe $4,000. So I remember hearing that. I guess, and then they're blaming it on the CPA.
Yeah.
So,
I hear that all the time too.
Yeah.
It's the same. I don't know, it's the same person, but certainly I hear it all the time. And that comes to what we talked about earlier, that if you have this side hustle, this gig, you're going to have to pay estimated taxes, or you don't have to pay estimated taxes. You could just increase your withholding on your job. so that they take out more money from your paycheck. But you have to be proactive. These things don't happen automatically.
Exactly, exactly. So, and then also, I tried to start a business and, I got my LLC and now everything. So the change, I guess, is the thing now. So what would you say to that mindset of going from W-2 to entrepreneur and how to soften the blow maybe, or just understanding the mindset of it?
Well, I think the first thing that you have to do is separate your business and personal finances completely. I mean, for your business, you need a separate business bank account, a separate credit card. You need to set up books and records. You can't use the shoebox approach that you may do for your personal taxes. You're required for business to keep books and records. That's what the tax law says. And so you don't have to be a numbers person. There are so many simple online accounting solutions. I mean, QuickBooks is probably the most famous, but there are so many others. Some, depending on what you do, it could be even simpler than that. And all it requires is just inputting your income and expenses, just putting it into the program, and on a fairly regular basis. It doesn't have to be daily, but you got to keep up with it. And I think once you do that, I think you'll start to orient towards business for your business matters. That you just kind of need a little structure and setup that you can go to and turn to for your business.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I hear that all the time too. I only have one card for everything, and I go, So I'm glad you mentioned that, to not commingle business with personal, have real books for your business. And I mean, this is truly the way to save on taxes, is having good books, really. And so my soapbox on this is I have a money date with myself, my CPA. And so depending on what's going on, my husband, right? He's partnership in one of our companies. And plus we have a personal life together. So there is all of this ebb and flow that needs to happen. I have a money date every Thursday at 8 a.m. And it's basically just running over my accounts, what's in, what's out. And so because I'm on it on a weekly basis, it's not as detrimental. Sometimes I have to do it a couple times during the week, but the real date, no matter what, is Thursday at 8 a.m. And sometimes my CPA is included, sometimes my husband's included, but I'm always included in all of the things. So that's my structure in doing, hopefully that helps somebody out there in the world, but that's my structure into not being an overwhelm. And I think that's probably where that comes from, is people feel overwhelmed when they see numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to, the great thing about these programs is you don't have to do any calculations.
Yeah.
It's all done for you. And the benefit of doing this is beyond just for tax purposes. You can generate various financial statements so you know how your business is doing. You may think you're doing great. Oh, I had all these sales, and and yet you could be losing money and not even know it, because your expenses have gone wild. So again, I think your approach is a great approach, because you attend to this matter on a regular basis. And I know for many people in business, this is not the fun part of the business. This is the least fun part of the business, but it's really the important part of the business, because it will determine how much you get to keep after you pay your taxes, how to stay out of trouble and avoid penalties, and to know if you need to make operational changes in your business to be profitable, to increase profits, and to move forward.
Yeah, I mostly did. I started that because of what we call money leaks, right? Like it's so easy to have them these days because of all the different AI subscriptions. I mean, I'm totally guilty of them. I'm like, oh, $12, $19, blah, blah, blah. And then you go to the money date and you're like, oh, that's a lot of, that adds up, right?
Yes, it
And,
does.
and then you see things like, if you're not on top of it, I remember at one point, I had been paying for something for 3 years. This is why I'm so adamant about it. And hopefully, again, this helps somebody. But like once I started just looking and not even having to know, but just looking and seeing, then I could go, oh my God, that subscription is still there. I thought I canceled it, or, whatever it was. So really handling those money leaks is the gratitude I got from it. I'm like, oh, it saved me $100, and yeah.
The point that you make, and I think maybe people don't think about it. They think, oh, well, I'll have a bookkeeper, I'll have an accountant deal with all this stuff. But if you look at it, then you know where the money's going and coming from. And so it's really important that you stay on top of it, even if you have someone prepare your return or give you investment advice or advice for your business. If it's really, you're the business, the buck stops with you.
Yeah, and none of this out of sight, out of mind stuff. Like if it's okay to have someone that handles all your bookkeeping, your CPA, your taxes, all your housekeeping, everything, put your shoes on, whatever, but you need to lead the person into the right stuff, right? You can't just put it to they'd handle it all, So I'm so glad you brought that up. And it's another soapbox of mine. Oh, I have a 401k, but what do you invest in? I don't know. I have no idea.
When was the last time you looked?
Yeah, exactly.
People maybe make an investment decision and then they don't look at it again.
Yeah.
Ever. So I mean, it's not something you have to do every day, but it's something that you should do on a regular basis, whether it's quarterly or something like that.
Yeah, and also, and this reminds me, someone said this to me, I don't want to learn how to do that. That's not why I said that. So you don't have to know how to do it. That's what Barbara's for. She's going to help you with all of that. You don't have to know how, but you have to know what in order to lead Barbara with what you want.
Exactly.
Hopefully that makes sense for everybody. And please tell everybody, how can they get a hold of you so that they can, ask questions, get support, get strategy.
Well, you can find me at bigideasforsmallbusiness.com. And there you can sign up for my free daily tip, and you can get my free ebook by doing that. And you can follow me on various social media platforms and see what I'm posting. I try to stay up on a lot of things, but primarily tax, financial, and legal matters. And I try to share this with small business owners.
So good and so important too. So, I mean, thank you so much for doing that. I'll be signing up myself to make sure I get all the strategy I can. And one final question that I want to ask you, what does Barbara like to do for fun?
Well, I live in a fabulous place that I think is paradise. I go out and I walk every morning in nature, and it's just the best. And I have a lot of activities besides that. But I start off my day every day. I do 5 miles in the morning every day.
5 miles? My
Yeah.
God. Where are you at?
I'm in Vero Beach, Florida.
Florida, how gorgeous.
So I can do it year round, and other than when there's a hurricane. So
yeah, absolutely. Sounds beautiful. So I, for the most part, get stuck in my house walking on my treadmill. So I just love that. That was a great visual out there in nature. And anything else that you think the audience should know that maybe we didn't cover? Any final words?
Yeah, maybe being in business is not for everybody. I think there's some people who just don't want the responsibility of keeping their books and records and doing all that stuff and planning, and that's fine, and be a W-2 employee and move up the ladder there. But regardless of whether you're in business or you're a W-2 employee, my biggest recommendation is to keep educating yourself, whether it's taking courses, doing webinars, doing seminars, going to Chamber of Commerce meetings and hearing from other people locally. just keep learning, and it'll help you stay up on what's new, see trends, and help you move ahead and succeed.
Love it, love it, love it. And didn't you have a free gift that you wanted to give them?
Yes, that's my ebook. It's I can't remember the exact title, but it's 150 plus deductions for small business, and so just it will help.
So good, so good. Awesome. You've been amazing. And I know my audience is super appreciative of you speaking and helping and seeing some strategy that they might be able to do.
Right.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Barbara. And to everybody, have a beautiful rest of the day. And we'll see you in the next episode of Empower Her Wealth Summit. Bye.